Alright guys, we're doing the back now. A little late to the party, but I got the front mounts cut off and I still got the rear shackle hanger in there. I'm just draining that tank to pull the tank out to get the inside of that passenger side mount. So I'll show you what I got here. Here's the new brackets for the front hanger. And with those F150 leaves, if I were to mount this thing, it's about 3 inches forward and it's going to sit right about there. As you can see, it's right on that curve of the frame there. So I'm going to flip this thing around this way and it's going to sit right about there, just like that. So running it backwards, but I don't know, I think it's still should be fine. I think that's better than running it right on that corner there. And so what I did was it's 3 inches forward from the stock leaves. So before I cut this mount off, I measured 3 inches forward and then I marked that right there, and that's where the front of the mount will sit. Just a reference point so I can get it tacked on there, set the leaves in, and make sure the axle is centered between the wheel well. So I'm going to get that tank out, get the rest of the other side cut off, and I'll show you guys tacking these things on, making sure everything's straight, and go from there and make sure this axle is sitting in there right before we weld anything in. Alright, we got these leaf springs hung up in there. Everything's just clamped, and I still got the stock hanger in the back. What I actually did was took the, this is a stock bushing, and then I took the sleeve out of the new bushings, and they fit right in here. So I'm just using that for mock-up, and that's just clamped on. So I'm going to tack these front hangers on, and I swapped them around. I'm going to do it this way. Even though there is that little bit of a gap, I can just fill that with weld. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. So you want to make sure that this is obviously spaced, because the stock mount is wider than this one. So make sure you're even here, and then measure in between the pins on the leaves and make sure those are even or the same width as the holes in the perches on the axle. And once you're done with that, center this up and everything should be straight. So I'm going to go tack everything together, put the axle underneath it, set it on the ground, and make sure that the axle is centered in the wheel well before I weld those on. So that's what I'm going to do now, just put a couple tacks on these. So I don't know how well those clamps are going to hold it. And I think I'm pretty close. It's hard to know because the spring, as the spring compresses, this pin will move back. So it'll kind of move up and back. So I got it just forward, like an inch forward of center. So I'm hoping that it'll move about an inch back when that spring compresses. So I guess we'll see. I might have to adjust it a little bit, but once I get on the ground, then I can actually get a legit measurement and move that accordingly to set it centered. So I'm gonna get those tacked on, get the axle underneath it, and put some weight on it, see what it looks like. Alright guys, I got those hangers tacked on. I got the jack under it with all the weight on it. And we're gonna have to move that just a touch. It's about a ½ inch too far back. We got the tire on this side. You can kind of see it's not really noticeable, but I measured it's about a ½ inch too far back. And actually originally had those hangers a ½ inch further forward because I didn't think those pins would move back that far when it was compressed, but I guess I was wrong. So I just got a couple tacks on them, so no big deal. Cut the tacks off, move those front hangers a 1/2 inch forward, and obviously those shackle hangers are not going to work. I got new ones already, so I got to cut those ones off and move them back. So I got to get that figured out too. Alright guys, got that thing centered in there. Cut them back off, moved them a 1/2 inch forward, tacked them up again. So we're good on the front mounts. Now, that's a little excessive for a shackle angle, so I'm going to cut those off, and I'll show you guys what I got for those. So this is all from Ruffstuff. So here's the hanger, and it's not welded, so you can move it wherever you want. I'll probably just center it. So yeah, there's that. They give you bushings, all that good stuff. So yeah, the front and rear hangers were from Ruffstuff for the rear end of the truck. So I'm gonna just kind of guesstimate. I mean, you can get pretty close now because I got all the weight on it. So you want like a 20 to 30 degree shackle angle. So I'm just gonna kind of keep the weight on it and get 30 degrees and mark the frame where about 30 degrees is for that angle, and I can cut that mount off, weld the new one on. Alright guys, I got them rear hangers cut off. So I got the new ones over here, but they're not welded. So I'm gonna weld those puppies together. And they make it not welded so you can move them wherever you need them, but I got plenty of room, so I'm just gonna center them up, weld them just like that. So I'll show you guys a little bit of welding here. Alright, got them tacked up. I'm gonna run a bead on this one. There's that. Turned out pretty good. Alright guys, got those done up. Turned out alright. A little rusty still. So I'm gonna let those cool off, then we can get them tacked onto the truck. I'll show you guys what to do there. Alright guys, I got the rear hangers up there, just clamped in. So I measured from the back of the frame and marked, well, first when the other shackle or when the other hanger was on, I found where I wanted the center, so I marked that, and then I found each side from center on the new hanger, and I marked each side. And then I found the center based off of the width of the pins on the axle. Found the center here, marked those front and back, so that should be right where we need it. So I'm going to tack it in there, both of them, and then we can put this thing on the ground and make sure everything's good. It should be, we're about vertical there, so once we get the weight on it, it should be right about 20, maybe 25 degrees, which is right where we want it. So But make sure you just tack it before you actually fully weld it. Put it on the ground, make sure everything's good. Because as you saw on the fronts, I had to move them. So let's get these tacked up in there, and then we can sit on the ground and see where we're sitting. Alright guys, we got everything tacked on. Back here, that's all tacked on. There's our shackle angle, which is right where we want. So now that all that's verified and good, we can go in and fully weld all these, both the front and rear hangers in. So just make sure you, when you're welding these, make sure you pull the bushings out. These were a pain, these were going to be a pain to get out, so I actually just shoved some other bushings in there just to test it. So if you have those bushings in, they will melt, especially in the fronts too. So just pull the leaves out and weld them all in. And then once you're done with that, then we can work on some shocks. And I actually got to pull this axle back out and paint it, get that all cleaned up. So I just wanted to get these mounts all set in there. So we're getting close, just weld them all in and then we should be good to go. Alright guys, got all these hangers welded on fully. So I put a brace on the outside of the front hangers just because they're offset. So that one's pretty close to the frame there, but that one's hanging over about 1 inch. So it came with a hanger, so I figured why not, might as well throw it on there. So there we go. So now I'm going to splash some paint on them, and I still gotta get that axle painted up, but probably ain't gonna get that done today. So I'm gonna get those hangers painted up and throw the springs up under it and all that good stuff. So alright guys, got these all painted up and got it sitting on its own weight. There's the rear shackle angle, it's right where I wanted it. And so I got these F150s, and I did throw an add leaf in it, and it's sitting pretty good right now. There's obviously no weight in the front, so it's about 2.5 inches lower than the back. So I think that'll be pretty close with a motor in it. So I'm hoping that'll I ain't gotta mess with anything. And another thing to look at here, it's kind of dark, but my pinion angle with putting these springs forward how they're supposed to go. A lot of people run these reversed, but I put these short end forward, which is how they're mounted stock in the F150, and you get a really good pinion angle. Right now I'm pointed up pretty close to the transfer case. Well, not that close, but last time I did it, I pulled or I put them in with a long end forward, and you mount it way up here and it drops that front pinion angle quite a bit. So then I had to use shims under the leaves to pull that pinion back up. So it looks like I'm not gonna have to do any of that this time. So I'm pretty happy with how the rear turned out.